everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I came with a very interesting story that teaches us something deep and powerful. It's not just about a tree, it's about the hidden roots of our problems and how to truly remove them from our life. So sit back, listen closely, and let this story make you think in a new way. In a small village surrounded by quiet hills and endless fields, there stood an old, crooked tree near the edge of the farmland. Its bark was blackened by age, its leaves were always dry no matter the season, and the air around it felt heavy. People often said the tree was cursed, that it carried bad energy, and many believed their failures and misfortunes began the day it grew stronger. The elders told stories of how it had been there for generations, surviving every storm, every axe, every fire. Over the years, many villagers had tried to cut the tree down. Strong men with heavy tools chopped its thick trunk, burned its branches, and dug shallow holes around it. For a short time, the tree would disappear, and the villagers would celebrate. But within weeks, tiny shoots would rise again from the ground, stronger and darker than before. The people began to think it was impossible to get rid of it. One day, a traveler arrived in the village. He wore simple clothes and carried nothing but a bag and a walking stick. The villagers, tired and frustrated from yet another failed attempt to destroy the tree, told him their story. They explained how no matter what they did, the tree kept coming back. The traveler listened quietly and then asked if he could see the tree himself. He stood before the black trunk that had just started to grow again. Its leaves had not even formed yet, but its presence was already unsettling. The traveler knelt beside it and placed his hand on the soil. The villagers watched as he stayed silent, touching the ground, feeling the earth beneath. Then he stood up and looked around at the crowd. "Do you know why the tree keeps returning?" he asked gently. "Because you only fight what you can see. You cut the surface, but you never go deeper. You never touch the roots." The villagers looked at each other, unsure what to say. "The roots," he said, pointing to the soil, "are the reason this tree lives. As long as they stay hidden, they will keep feeding this tree, no matter how many times you chop the top." The people had never thought about that. They were always in a hurry to remove what was visible. The traveler told them that real problems are like that tree, what you see is never the full truth. If you want to remove something completely, whether it's a bad habit, a fear, or a painful memory, you must go to its root. You must be willing to dig deep. So they began the real work. This time, they didn't just bring axes and fire, they brought shovels and patience. They started digging around the tree, slowly, carefully, layer by layer. At first, the ground was soft, but the deeper they went, the harder it became. Some roots were small and easy to remove. Others were thick, wrapped around stones, holding tightly to the earth. The sun rose and set, but the villagers kept digging. They found roots that had grown far away from the trunk, hidden under grass, under rocks, even under nearby plants. With every root they pulled, they felt something shift, not just in the ground, but inside themselves. It was no longer just about the tree. It became a lesson about everything they had ignored for too long. On the fourth day, they reached the final root. It was old and dry but wrapped tightly around a heavy stone deep underground. It took all their strength, but together, they managed to break it free. As they lifted the last piece, the earth around the tree seemed to breathe out. The ground felt lighter. The air was still. For the first time in years, the tree didn't grow back. The villagers stood in silence. They had done something they once believed was impossible. But more than removing a tree, they had learned how to face the things they were afraid to look at, the things buried deep within. That old tree wasn't just a piece of wood, it was a symbol of every problem they tried to avoid, every pain they tried to cover, every truth they refused to face. In the weeks that followed, people in the village started looking at their lives differently. A young man who always felt angry began asking where that anger truly came from. A woman who never smiled started journaling about her past. A boy who couldn't sleep at night finally told his mother about the thoughts that haunted him. The digging had continued in their hearts. They learned that healing is not loud. It's not about one big moment or one dramatic change. It's slow. It's quiet. It's uncomfortable. Just like digging through dry earth, it takes time to reach the root of anything real. And sometimes, what you find deep down isn't what you expected, but it's what you needed to face. The traveler stayed in the village for a few days before leaving again. He didn't ask for anything. He simply said, "When you stop cutting the surface and start touching the roots, you change everything." His words stayed with the people long after he was gone. Seasons passed, and the place where the tree once stood grew wildflowers instead. Children played there now. Birds built nests in the bushes nearby. There was peace where once there was fear. But the most beautiful change wasn't in the land, it was in the people who had chosen to dig deeper. They now knew that if a tree of pain or fear returns in their life, they must ask, "Have I really removed the root, or just trimmed the surface?" They stopped running from hard questions. They stopped hiding from their truth. And slowly, life felt lighter. No one ever forgot the tree, because it had taught them the most powerful lesson: problems don't end just because you stop seeing them. They end when you remove what's feeding them. They end when you are brave enough to go deeper.